Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. Gilbert, you had to cover both of those two boring games on Christmas Day, but now we, head up to the rest of the slate. And one of the games that we have on the slate is Rams versus Cardinals, as the Rams look to clinch a playoff spot in the playoffs. Just your overall outlook. Are you excited about this game? Where are you at with Rams Cardinals Week 17?
I don't know. It's hard to get excited for football after what happened yesterday. I'm like, man, are all the games going to be that terrible? What happened to good football? It's been a long
Yeah,
time. I was suffering there. Patrick Mahomes did look good as a quarterback there for the Chiefs. It might be the Chiefs' year again. I
yeah,
don't know. And then the Texans were just pathetic. 2 points, really, 2 points. So
yeah.
let's see what the triple header on Saturday provides. It can't be that good when it comes to Patriots and Chargers. I'm expecting the Chargers to win that one. Maybe something interesting with Bengals and Broncos, but the Broncos are pretenders. Let's be for real here. I think the Bengals will probably win that one. And then I think the Rams should be okay. We're gonna break it down here, but you never know. Maybe Arizona wants to play spoiler. They get up for this game here. People are criticizing Kyler Murray. I criticized Kyler Murray in a story that came out yesterday. So maybe Arizona with less pressure could give us a game here on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I mean the Cardinals, they want to play spoiler, and then the Rams are looking for revenge after that 40-10 whooping they got in week 2. So we got a lot to get into. We'll get into, how these two teams have gotten to this point where the Rams are about, they're on the verge of clinching the division, and at the same time, the Cardinals had a big collapse after being in first place and having a 6-4 records. But we'll get all into that. We'll preview, we'll get into all that, in this preview. But let and we have player matchups as we usually do. Our storylines for both teams, and our predictions to end the show. But Gilbert, do you have a engagement question for the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, let me know. I guess what are the keys to this matchup here for the engagement question of the week, Christmas edition. Hopefully, everybody had a good Christmas here. And if you're still enjoying a couple days off, hopefully you're watching the replay here. Comment that you're with us. We always want to see the comments. Comment that you're watching the replay. Again, we always want to see comments here, so that'd be great. But let us know what your keys are to the game here. Maybe you're feeling okay. You're feeling nice. Things are shaking your way here.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't believe that perfect Sunday for the Rams, where all three NFC West teams lost and the Rams won. Where this game kind of lost a little sizzle. We'll talk about the playoffs. It's weird because I think we both thought that the Rams could win the division with the straight out win against Arizona. That's not really the case, but we'll break it down after I did some digging here. But so there is
Yeah.
some pressure here overall. You don't want to lose the game. And tonight, by the way, the Seahawks are playing the Chicago Bears, so it is a win and you're in thing if the Bears beat the Seahawks. But come on, let's be real here. You never know. But
You
let's
never
see.
know.
So the
Yeah.
Seahawks, they should be better than the Bears. But yeah, it will be nice. Imagine like everything that's gone right for the Rams the last 2 weeks. Maybe I shouldn't doubt it because everything is breaking their way the last 2 weeks here. To the point where people are crediting this defense now. Finally, people are pointing the fingers at Chris Shula. Chris Shula, you're doing a good job here. So maybe that's the key to the game here. Keep doing what you're doing defensively here. Fluster, smother, whatever you want to call it. Kyler Murray, you're not getting anything going this week because Kyler Murray has not been good at all. And now he's facing a very good defense. And I think it was Aaron Rodgers also who highlighted the defense after his miserable day against Chris Shula.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point there, in terms of the defense, I think what they've allowed, 6 points to the Niners, and then 9 points to the Jets. So I mean, they've been putting in the work, and then the offense, as we talked about, part of it has to do with the conditions that they played in. So now that they're back at SoFi, it should be back to a high flying offense, and we'll see if that's what we get. We have a comment already on here, and it's Happy Gilmore. He says, "Compa." So it's good to have Happy Gilmore on here,
What's
and
up, Happy?
we also talking about Happy Gilmore. We got a sneak peek into Happy Gilmore 2, which I'm thinking it's not going to be as good as the original.
Yeah, it won't.
Yeah. That's for another day. All right, Gilbert, let's get to Rams and Cardinals news and notes, plus injury report. So, are already some bad news in terms of, I guess you can either say that it's bad news just because um, it has to do with an injury, and that is that according to Sean McVay, Rob Havenstein, the right tackle, suffered a shoulder injury during Wednesday's practice.
Mm.
He would normally get a rest day on Wednesday. McVay is hopeful for Saturday. But if he's not able to go, it sounds like Joe Noble will be the backup. So, I mean, depending on what happens tonight, Gilbert, with the Seahawks and the Bears, I would assume that we don't see Rob Havenstein the rest of the regular season, and we might not see him until the first round of the playoffs.
Well, first of all, have we gotten a final injury report from the Rams, or because it's
But
Thursday of a Saturday game? I would think, but
yeah,
they also practice very late.
yeah. No, we did. I checked it before I went on my
So
walk before
so he's
coming on.
so he's questionable then.
He's questionable
Okay.
as of right now. Yes, that
Okay.
was the
Yeah.
final
All right.
thing.
So it's not a for sure out, but you
Yes.
definitely want Rob Havenstein, and we've seen it. The second he came back, things just sort of fell back into place. Like I think that was the top five is Alaric Jackson, Steve Avila, Bo Limmer, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein. You need those five there because when you
Yep.
see any other combination, it's not very good. So I'm a little worried about that. Who's the backup? Is it McClendon? I forget, or is it
Yeah,
Noble?
McClendon, but it sounds like it's gonna be Joe Noble and
Ugh.
two. and
Yeah.
I mean, even the worm is like Noble, please
Ah,
no.
yeah, so maybe now this game is a little closer than I guess would
Oh,
have
I have.
expected.
Wait till I give you the next part of this injury
Okay, yeah,
report.
that was really a big one for me, but okay,
Yeah.
continue. That's
All right. So now heading over to the other side with the Cardinals will be without both of their
ah,
tackles
yeah.
versus the Rams. Jonathan Gannon said that this week that left tackle Paris Johnson Jr. and right tackle Jonah Williams will be out on Saturday. So yes, so a little bit of bad news for the Rams, but a
Yeah.
little bit of good news for the Rams defense here.
Yeah, I did see that, and I guess I didn't really care because, like, they're kinda out of it. This is a time of year where you see a lot of teams that are out of playoff contention where, like, players or an injury report or on the injury report who are star players who could probably go if they were still in the race, just suddenly say, "Okay, we're done for the year here. You got a good excuse. You're not a quitter. You're not soft. Go take the 2 weeks off." And I don't blame them. You don't want to get hurt in a meaningless game. That
Yeah.
happened today with CeeDee Lamb, which I'm annoyed. I was picking the Cowboys for like an upset in a couple of these things that I do for SI, and CeeDee Lamb was not going to play anymore. But anyway, that's a
I mean, I
different
guess
story.
it'll happen. I mean, they might start
Yeah,
the
that's where I was
backup
going off.
quarterback. So
Hopefully, it's another backup quarterback, but I have felt better with CeeDee Lamb. But anyway, the point is, teams are out of it. It could go, two ways where you just check out, you quit. I shouldn't say quit. You don't have your best players available, so you
yeah.
kind of don't have good odds of winning the game. And then mentally, you're not really there because you're thinking about that trip to Mexico, going to Cancun,
Hmm.
and then losing your two left tackles against Jared Verse and Byron Young and Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk. Good luck.
Yeah, actually, I'm in the championship game, and you just reminded me I might need to go pick up the Rams defense for this championship game. But yes, it's gonna be those front four guys should be eating in this game, especially with the depleted offensive line of the Cardinals. So we will see. But yeah, left tackle and right tackle will be out for the Cardinals in this game. So uh, uh, Murray will be running around trying to, and he's already. We'll get to that. We'll get to Kyler Murray's disappointing year. In terms of the injury report, as we said, Rob Havenstein is questionable with the shoulder. Alaric Jackson had a NIR rest day as well. He should be ready to go. Then with the Cardinals, you have safety Joey Blunt, who has with ribs. He did not practice. Cornerback Elijah Jones with an ankle was also limited. And then Gilbert, these are the two big ones in terms of their off, not just with their tackles, but both running back Trey Benson with an ankle and running back James Conner with a knee were both limited, and they're both questionable to play on Saturday as well, Gilbert.
Yeah, the James Conner one is it's gonna be tough. The guy just got paid 2 years, $19 million. He's already has his job secured with the Cardinals for the next, I guess, well, at least 1 year or 2 years. So why get hurt again? Why don't you just go into 2024? You're not a free agent anymore. You're not playing for something else. So I don't see any reason for him to play. So, but you never know. Guys like Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., who need chemistry, need to play. But other than that, I will not put James Conner in there when you know how important he is to you. I get it. Maybe for him, he's like, hey, I have financial security. Maybe that's the other way you think about it. I'm set with money. I'm gonna go out and play. But you don't want to start the year with the bad injury and then you're out. I think that happened to a couple Saints players on Monday night. We're like, you're thinking those veterans could have been a better either at home resting.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where you kinda have to think about your future going forward, especially since he just got paid. What's the purpose of you even playing in this game to mess up your knee even more? Like, you are a rare player out there, a rare running back who got a 3rd contract. I mean, not a lot of running backs get a 3rd contract, so if I'm him, I just protect my what is, another year or 2 that you have with this team, and so it just doesn't make sense to try to go, and I'm not just saying it because 'cause they're playing the Rams, I'm just saying in terms of how you should look at things here, like, the smart thing to do would be to, just, rest and, go ahead and have surgery and get ready for next season, especially now that you've gotten signed to a 3rd contract.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. But what the hell is the point of just playing spoiler? Is that the only thing you have here? I
Yeah.
wouldn't care about that.
Let me get to these comments before we move on to storylines here. Robert D, who is joining us, says, Gilbo, I'm always wrong about the Chargers.
Ro-
Laugh out
Rob,
loud.
Robert D was so, I guess, forgetful. Remember when the Buccaneers beat the Chargers and I chose them?
Yeah.
Remember when the Chiefs beat the Chargers and I chose them actually twice? But whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And Delver says, hope your Christmas was great. Go Bears. Simply keep the momentum going, Rams. Contains Murray. He's still dangerous. Shore up those DBs.
I don't know, Dilbert. You would have told me that 2 months ago. I would have definitely said you're right. Now I don't know
Yeah.
about Kyler Murray.
About Kyler Murray. I don't know if he's dangerous, and we'll get into it. But hope your Christmas was good as well, Delbert. Yeah, let's get to these Rams and Cardinals storylines. So as we talked about with Arizona, they beat the Rams 41-10, and then they went on a little run there, Gilbert, to where they were in first place 10 games into the season. They were 6-4. They were they were atop the NFC West, and the wheels just fall off. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they lost twice to Seattle, and then I thought a gimme game was against the Panthers. They lost that one as well. Um, what has been the cause of the Cardinals' late season collapse, Gilbert?
Yeah, first of all, let me kind of lay out what's going on here with the Rams and the NFC West division title, and maybe disregard if you're listening on a Friday or watching on a Friday if the Seahawks lose to the Chicago Bears. But if the Seahawks win, and the Rams win, I was checking the New York Times playoffs odds maker. If that happens, Seahawks lost. Well, Seahawks lost and the Rams win. That's 100%. You win a division outright. But if the Seahawks win and the Rams win, then it goes to 99%. So you don't really clinch the division title unless a
Okay.
few things happen on Sunday, which are probably gonna happen. It's weird. It goes to strength of victory because there's still a scenario where if both teams win this week and say the Seahawks beat the Rams on week 18 and they tie for the same record, then it goes for a bunch of weird tiebreakers that technically favor the Rams, but it goes on strength of victory. And I think three out of 6 teams need to win this weekend. And there's some very good teams for that strength of victory to improve the Rams' way. And I think after that, the Rams get 100% with the victory against the Cardinals. So I know it's complicated, this and that. I'm just maybe the Bears just beat the Seahawks today, and we don't care about the tiebreaker at all. But yeah, so this is always a weird scenario. But the best thing you could do, Rams, just beat the Cardinals on Sunday. Hope you
Saturday.
get, Saturday. Hope you get some help on Sunday, and then you clinch by Monday. So that's probably the best path here. But instead of getting to all the strength of victory, shout out to Gary Klein. He wrote about it. I want to say like the Bills need to win, maybe even the 49ers. But there's a lot of teams. The Commanders need to win, I think, too. Like three
Yeah,
out of
because
six
they've
teams.
been. I was gonna say this, but they've been the Seahawks and the Rams have both been eliminated from the wild card, right? So they cannot win a wild card game. Like I mean, either the 7th seed over the Commanders because of
Yeah,
the Commanders win over the Seahawks. So they
yeah,
were eliminated from that. So their clear path for both the Rams and the Seahawks is to win the division, the NFC West. That's it. That's the only
yeah.
spot left to win for both of these teams.
Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to so if it I guess pretty much a Rams victory, you get 99% of clinching that division. And
Mhm.
so to summarize it, Rams beat the Cardinals, you're pretty much going to win the NFC West. It's just don't pop the champagne bottle just yet if the Seahawks beat the Bears because of tiebreakers and scenarios. But like I mentioned, the New York Times odds maker told me 99% if both teams win this weekend. So you like those odds, 99% to win the
Yeah.
division.
Yeah, that should be good. Now, getting back to the Cardinals here, just in terms of their storyline and what's happened to them. And as Daniel said, well, first of all, let me get to this comment here. Gary wants to know if that's a crack. You get more questions about
I
your
do.
hat than I've ever seen, Gilbert.
Which I do like. That's why I keep wearing it. People in public tell me, "Is that a Kraken hat?" I get the question all the time. Anytime somebody sees me for the first time wearing this hat, they say, "What is that?" Or "Is that a Kraken hat?" Yes, it's a Kraken hat. And Gary, is Gary Trujillo a Rams fan or a Chargers fan? I know
I don't know.
I've seen Gary's name a couple times. My apologies in advance. But if you are a Rams fan, maybe you don't like it because of Seattle ties there. And it's not about Seattle. I really like the logo. And then I was in Seattle in September, and I said, "I've been wanting a hat. F it, I'll get it." And then I'm very proud of this hat because people keep asking about it. But
Yeah.
there's no loyalty to this team here. I don't even care for hockey. Hockey's terrible.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind going to a Kings game. Uh,
Yeah.
I've never been to a Ducks game, but yeah, I don't care about hockey. It's just a cool hat for me.
Yeah, it's weird. You always get you always get asked about it, and I like your bit here because you continue to wear it.
Yeah. I'm gonna start
But
getting other weird hats so people could get thrown off.
same. I mean, I'm good. Oh, he's Gary is a
There you
Rams
go.
fan all the way since 1986.
Okay,
So
Gary.
Gary, welcome. Yeah, it
Gary's
is
thinking I'm a Seattle fan, but I'm not.
yeah, no, we're not Seattle fans here. Daniel says worried about the Arizona run game, but like
Yeah,
we said, they're missing both their tackles, and James Conner and Trey Benson are questionable. So we will see what happens there. But yes, they rely a lot on their run game, and that's been their bread and butter this season. Is when they run the ball, they've been really good, and part of the reason they haven't been when they're not good is when they let Kyler Murray be the reason why,
yeah.
or they let him be the sole, purpose of the offense, and he hasn't been good, which is a big reason why the question has been posed here is what has been the cause of the Cardinals' late season collapse, Gilbert?
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to lay down those playoff
Yeah, no, you're
implications
good.
because you mentioned the Cardinals were in first place when they were 6-4 before the bye week, and it's wild to think that we're now here where the Rams are on the verge of winning the NFC West. But yeah, I think a lot of things happen, and I'll say this: I think the Cardinals for the first 10 weeks sort of had an identity to just be conservative, run heavy, just kind of be a balanced offense and just get by off a defense is also was playing their butt off. The defense really reminded me of the Rams defense last year, where they well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but because they had Aaron Donald. But remember, it was
Right.
Aaron Donald, Ernest Jones, and that's about it. And
Yep.
then we were praising Raheem Morris for making it work with a very thin defense that didn't have too much star power. Now the Cardinals don't have an Aaron Donald. They don't have an Ernest Jones. They just had they had Buda Baker. Give them Buda
Buda
Baker.
Baker and Mac Wilson Jr., their linebacker, is really
Yeah,
good.
so they have some good players there. I know they like maybe Xavier Collins was a little up and down. He got another contract, but other than that, I think Jonathan Gannon was doing a great job with the defense. Now, a couple of things happened after the bye week. The schedule got a little tougher. Kyler Murray was asked to throw a little more. That not so talented defense was, bending a little more that Jonathan Gannon would like. They couldn't really get a lot of pressure. But I'll say this: when Kyler Murray needed to step up, he couldn't get the job done. That stretch where they played the Seahawks twice in 3 weeks and the Vikings in the middle, that's when it fell apart for them. That's when you were supposed to kind of take control of the division, maybe beat the Seahawks twice, maybe even just one time. You probably be in the playoff race right now. They couldn't do it, and the first game the offense was completely just shut down. And then the second game, well, the second game of that stretch, they went to Minnesota. They jumped out to like a 19-6 lead. They were doing well. Kyler Murray threw a touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. And then Minnesota, because they're Minnesota, they rallied. Kyler Murray couldn't throw the ball deep. You couldn't rely on James Conner. You had to throw the ball, and he couldn't, for some reason, he couldn't throw deep. And then he thinks about it too much that he throws two killer interceptions in that game. He can't find Marvin Harrison Jr. Everything that he throws is short passes to Trey McBride. He's not really running either. So I kept thinking, Victor, maybe this is a disconnect with coaching philosophy where, I think maybe Drew Petzing keeps telling Kyler Murray, hey, stay in the pocket. Learn how to be a pocket passer. Don't be a run-first guy. Any sign of trouble, you usually like to run away. Or when you kind of run away, you think about it too much or you do too much and you get in trouble. And I think that took away the creativity from Kyler Murray. When it came time to make those creative plays, he couldn't do it. And I'm like, who's this player? He's not the guy that I saw for the last 4 or 5 years. And even then, like, he wasn't that good, but he was good enough to say that creativity, not a lot of people could do that. He couldn't even do that. So that to me tells me either the coaching staff was trying to teach him to, try new things and be patient with the approach, or the coaching staff was saying, we don't like it when you get away from the pocket. You are reckless. You're dangerous. You're not really smart with the football. And I can't figure out which of the two it is, Victor, but there's a clear disconnect there. And you could tell that Kyler Murray has kind of lost his way a little bit out there.
Yeah, and I think part of it too, when I looked at this team, when we had a conversation before the season, and we were kind of going over some of the teams that could make a splash this season and be a surprise team to make the playoffs. You kind of sold me on the Cardinals, and part of it too, like kind of doing my own research, was the fact that you had someone in Drew Petzing who's been really good with the run game, and I think part of his thing is that he hasn't adjusted and hasn't been able to evolve it to where he can also make his passing game just as good. And a big example is just seeing what's happened with Marvin Harrison Jr. to where people are now doing redrafts and they're having him go third as a third receiver, which to me sounds crazy. And part of that, I mean, they're right, but at the same time, it also has to do with scheme. And I'm not gonna say that Kyler Murray doesn't have some of the blame here, because he does. But at the same time, as you just pointed out, he might just be trying to run their offense the way they're saying to run it, and he's probably hamstrung. Like, it's not kind of, when you look at someone like Lamar Jackson and what you've seen him with the new offensive coordinator, and you see what he's been able to do, you kind of want to see that from Kyler, but it might take him also, you know, buying in. And I don't think, kind of from what you've said, I don't think he's bought in, and I think that's the biggest problem with this offense. If your quarterback doesn't buy in, then and that's been part of, like, I get the jokes about the Call of Duty, but I felt like, I'll give him this. At least he's doing what they want him to do. He's just not being creative, and maybe he needs to be a little bit more stubborn for next season. But yeah, that's been the disappointing thing in terms of what you've seen from the Cardinals this season, because there
Yeah.
was a lot more expectation.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much blame on Kyler Murray because I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of going through this a little bit. What Kyler Murray has dealt with his whole career, I think a lot of things have been handed to him because they're very talented. They're first round picks, and everybody just expected Marvin to be this great wide receiver. And now, and to his credit, I don't mind that the coach is doing this. Jonathan Gannon called out Marvin Harrison Jr. for not being physical enough, not going after the football enough. When it's contested catches, he's not really being physical. And this guy, what do they compare him to? A Maserati. He's a car. Like, he's like a smooth player, good route runner. Everything comes nice and clean. But in football, you got to get a little gritty. You got to be a little more physical, and you can't just rely on your good route running and getting open. Like, sometimes these defenders are much better in the pro game. They're going to be with you stride for stride. What can you do differently, or what else do you have in the toolbox to kind of separate or get those 50-50 balls? And I think there was a point where maybe Kyler Murray wanted to get him involved, and that's part of the thinking too. Like, hey, I got a first round pick who's going to get annoyed with me here. Maybe we throw it up, and it hasn't really been that. It's just like he hasn't really even thrown his way a lot, and I don't know because there's no chemistry. There's no trust because of the lack of physical aspect from Marvin Harrison Jr. He's getting open. I'll say that. It's just when I started thinking about that, like, yeah, Jonathan Gannon has a point. He's not. I guess when you compare players like being feisty and being a dog, like Malik Neighbors is a dog. Like he
Yeah.
wants to go get that ball. That's all he wants is get that football. And to Marvin, it's kind of like, yeah, come to me. I'm open. Yeah, whenever you want it. Like he's just a little too laid back. Maybe that's something he needs to get over. And his dad was the same way, very quiet, but
Mm-hmm.
he definitely found a way to get that damn football. And I've heard the stories that behind the scenes he wanted the damn football. So maybe you could get a little more aggressive that way, and you don't want to be a diva, this and that. But that's part of it too. And then you can see the frustration on Trey McBride after they beat the freaking. Sorry, after when the Panthers beat them, and he's over here saying, "We just lost to the freaking Panthers. We suck." It was like a wake up call to them, and you could tell the frustration is boiling over. He can't even get a touchdown either.
Yeah.
He's getting all these little dump offs here. So I think part of it too, and this is always hard to criticize player for this, and I never really write about this, but what if Kyler Murray's not putting in the work? Like we all hear about the jokes
Yeah.
about Call of Duty, and he's not committed to the scheme. And maybe he tried for the most part to kind of just play it safe here. You want me to play it safe? I'll do it. But there wasn't like a back and forth. Okay, let me do this and let me do that. When it came to that Minnesota game, and that wasn't the coaching staff, to be honest, man. They were not being aggressive. They were just kind of playing on the lead, and then they blew it at the end. And then they asked Kyler Murray, "Can you be a hero in the final two drives here?" And that put a lot of pressure on him. He's making money to get that kind of pressure and answer. But to me, there's some disconnect there. Either he doesn't believe in it, like you mentioned, Victor. He doesn't buy
Yeah.
into it. Maybe he's not putting in the work. Because you see Lamar Jackson getting better every single week, and I don't want to compare the two mobile quarterbacks, but guys who struggle with passing, you want them to keep getting better and better. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. We want to see him to get better as
Yeah.
a passer. He hasn't done it, but there's even questions with him with his work ethic. So maybe that could be something there. But to me, this guy's been handed too many things where I pretty much wrote and said, bring competition for Kyler Murray. If it's freaking Zach Wilson, who cares? He used to be a first round pick. Put pressure on the guy. He kind of has that persona where like, you got to play off of me. I'm gonna be here next year. Coaches, do what you got to do, but I'm gonna be here.
Yeah, and one last point on Kyler Murray. I mean, as you said, he's won. I mean, he won in high school. I think he went undefeated when he was in school, in high school in Dallas, in Texas, and then he went to college and he won there too. Like he was successful. He was, and that's the thing too, as you mentioned, that goes part of it. When you hand these players, they're used to getting everything and winning. When you don't have that, it messes with their mind, and some of them don't want to put in the work, and that's just the thing. We don't know if that's the case, but there is definitely some kind of disconnect between what Kyler is trying to do and what 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 that coaching staff is trying to do with him. And it's just, yeah, like I remember we were all having a conversation when they were 6-4, and we looked at that schedule and we're like, yeah, they're gonna get to 10 wins, no problem. Hasn't been the case because they lost twice to the Seahawks, they lost to the Panthers, they beat down the Jets, which I thought, okay, like when everybody was like, okay, cool, but it's just, yeah, it hasn't clicked with this offense, and it's kind of been to the benefit of the Rams in a way too. So it's just weird, and I'm sure the Rams are going to be looking for payback, for that week too, and we'll get into why part of the reason why they lost that game was because they were without Puka. Cooper Cup got hurt in that game, and so now hopefully they're fully ready, they're fully healthy. We'll see what happens with Rob Havenstein, but yeah, that is crazy. And even Daniel DeCelleron said they put a study clause in his contract for a reason. So
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, that's a good point.
And then
And
when you
then
have question marks with the work ethic, how are you going to be when your games don't matter anymore? You're going to just like give
yeah.
up. Also, you're a guy who got hurt in December the year before, and you had to recover all off season, and you missed half a year because of an injury in a December game. So maybe Kyler Murray doesn't want to really be out there. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and we'll see how their contract goes forward. I know there's going to be a lot of teams looking for a quarterback, maybe they are ready to move on from him in the offseason. But it always,
Oh, he
I don't
still
know.
has guaranteed money in
It,
2025. I think for that would be 2026. But I think you could
yeah,
still at least bring competition to know,
yes,
do you want to resign this guy for a third time? And you got to see what he has.
yeah. Daniel Calderon says, "Do you think Murray mentally? You think Murray mentally for the game is gonna be? I don't know. I don't know anymore because of their season is over. So,
Yeah, I think it's
what do you anticipate from Kyler Murray on Saturday?
I think it's a valid question, and like you could definitely, like I mentioned, he got hurt 2 years ago in December, and he missed half of last year because of it. There's a whole issue about his work ethic and the whole game stuff. Maybe he takes it as an opportunity to say, "Hey, you guys always doubted me. Let me get 2 good games here to end the year, and then we'll carry some momentum into next year." So maybe he takes that approach. It'll be good for the Cardinals, but there's a reason why we're kind of 50-50 on which side he's going to be because of his track record. It's also kind of getting to a point like, why does Danny Jones get so much crap and Kyler Murray doesn't? They're from the same draft class.
Yep.
And then in the Patriots game, the one win of the last 5 weeks here, that was James Conner doing everything. So what have
Yeah.
you really done for them the last 5 weeks
And
here?
they were at home, right? Yeah, that was they were at home, so you should win that game.
Yeah.
And then James May brings up a good point here. Says it could be schemes defenses employ that has been his downfall. Teams are preparing for Murray. Sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just you're a 6 year guy on a second contract, and you're still kind of like when they were winning, the training wheels were on him, and
Yeah,
now when they took him off or when they needed to by force, which is not a good thing. You don't want to be forced to do something different because you're falling behind. But he had opportunities: 2 Seahawks games, 1 Vikings game. That game against the Panthers, I thought Bryce Young was a better quarterback for sure.
yeah, yeah. I watched most of that game, especially late in that game, and it was just amazing. You know, it was crazy seeing the transformation too. And it could also say, like, I mean, honestly, my biggest takeaway from that game was Dave Canales has done it again. Like he's resurrected another quarterback, which is
Yeah,
crazy to see. I
that's a
mean,
good old
but
line and a good rushing attack, and
yeah,
what a surprise! Surprise, the quarterback is benefiting from that.
yeah, exactly. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about in terms of the storylines here with the Cardinals is as I mentioned before, we both been very open about our praise of the GM Monty Austinford and head coach Jonathan Gannon with how they went about rebuilding this team. So how much of a leash will the GM and coach have after this season? Because they're in season 2 of this rebuild, Gilbert, and you don't get a lot of time. We've seen it. The NFL is not for long, but that's also has to do with your GM and coach, and you know you would want them to get at least 2 more years, but that's not guaranteed, especially when you don't make the playoffs. So, how much more do you think they'll give this combination?
Yeah, I would say, at least for sure, a third year. We'll see how the fourth year goes, but I think the third year is gonna be a critical year. They're doing well because they're taking steps forward. They won only 4 games year one. They had to kind of reshuffle that contract, sorry, the roster, and fix the salary cap a little bit, and to the point where the offense looked nice on paper. To you got people like me trying to say, okay, maybe they'll make some noise here. I thought Jonathan Gannon showed me a lot in his rookie year as a head coach by getting a bad roster that we all thought was going to get the number 1 pick to compete and do well there, and that's why they ended up with Mario Harrison Jr. and not questions about Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels surpassing Kyler Murray because they got the number 4 pick because they won a bunch of games at the end. So and then they got 6-4 this year, and they have 7 victories, so it's going to be a better year than year one. I think for me, year three is going to be critical for adding. Can Monty Ossenford add more help on the defensive side for Jonathan Gannon? Can you get
Yeah,
more defensive players to help out? Can you hit on draft picks? Because okay, Mario Harrison Jr. is supposed to be a slam dunk, but it kind of hasn't. Paris Johnson Jr., I'll give you credit for that. You moved around in the draft too, and you got a good left tackle. So you got that. But what about the rest of the guys? Year three, you want to see the other guys from your first 2 classes be impactful. Have we really gotten that? I don't know. I know their cornerback rookie Max Melton was getting some love early on. Uh, and we don't really know about their other first round pick, Darius Robinson. He got hurt a lot this year. So you want to see those draft picks do well in year three. Sometimes you need a game changing rookie class to help you out. So maybe get that in year three. But I think year three is gonna be critical here. I also really wonder what happens with Drew Petzing and Do they fire him because of what happened with Kyler Murray? Do they run it back one more year? I just don't. I don't. Anything that they show me this year doesn't scream run it back. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
either Kyler Murray, you're the problem. Let's add a backup to help to push him. Hey, maybe Daniel Jones lands in Arizona to push him. That to me will say, hey, Kyler Murray, you haven't been good. Maybe you're the problem. If they fire Drew Petzing, then we know what the hell happened. So
Yeah.
something's gonna happen. I think, like as an aftermath from this bad offense here, but they seem like they're ready to go and they weren't. So I think maybe how do they do in year 3 with Murray? Does defense get better? They'll be analyzed off of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if they get 4 years here.
Yeah, I mean, they should. I mean, one of the things I always go back to whenever I look at rebuilding teams is what are you rebuilding from? This is a team that had to, they ran an offense that Cliff Kingsbury ran in college, and part of it too is like kind of stripping that whole thing down. I always think about like, and not a lot of people think about this, but I remember when the Broncos went through this with Tim Tebow, where they when they got Tim Tebow, they had to shift their offensive the offensive lineman that they had to bring in, and then when they got rid of him and they brought Peyton Manning, they had to also bring in the type of lineman, and it's the same thing now. Like Kyler Murray's still there, but at the same time, you got to build around what you want to do with Kyler Murray. Now, as you just said, like they've been focused on their offense, that they need to be able to build on that defense, because that's a like Jonathan Gannon was a defensive guy, and that defense hasn't been good. And he's not the one running it. I get that, but at the same time, you got to give him help there. So, and and like I said, you got to give coach the GM and the coaching staff 4 years to be able to build something, or else you're just going to continue to just do the same thing over and over. We're seeing that with the Chicago Bears. They keep doing the same thing and not changing things. So a lot of these teams, that's why they continue to fail, is because they don't let things cook. Look at what happened with the Lions. The reason the Lions are actually doing really well is because they let things cook instead of firing, you know, uh, their coach Dan Campbell at the time when they were 2-7 at the time. So sometimes it's just letting some other letting them just cook. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but they have a lot of question marks going forward, Gilbert, and so we'll get into it. We have a lot of comments here that has to do with the Rams, so I want to make sure we get it. So Daniel Calderon must have missed the beginning of it. So he's like, "Does Seattle have to win today? Does Seattle have to win today?
Uh, no, well, I guess not
If they
necessarily.
lose, we clinch. If they
Well, you still have
lose,
to beat the Cardinals though. So, pretty much, Daniel, the way I summarize it, you beat the Cardinals, you're in a very good spot, regardless of what happens with Seattle or tiebreakers. But say they both lose today, or sorry, this week they both lose, then you can still have an opportunity for Seattle to steal the division in Week 18 based on some weird tiebreakers, and Seattle beating the Rams in at SoFi. So, pretty much just beat the Cardinals. But if the
yeah.
Bears beat the Seahawks and the Cardinals, sorry, Bears beat the Seahawks and the Rams beat the Cardinals, you're division champs. That's the
Yeah,
easiest way to
we're
put it.
getting to that point in the season where it's a lot of things that need to happen, but pretty much as you said, the Rams need to win, and if Seattle loses tonight, that helps a lot.
Mhm.
One more here from James Wheelock. He says, "I think Daniel Jones will be better with a better supporting cast." Yeah, like kind of like what we saw from Sam Darnold, but I think it'll take a couple years for Daniel Jones. He needs to go somewhere and kind of just take a year to kind of just be a backup.
Yeah, Sam Darnold did it. He went through the ringer in Carolina, got to learn in San Francisco. Then he fell into Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell. There's a reason why Daniel Jones went to Minnesota to be a
Yeah,
backup. He saw what's happening with Sam Darnold. We're all seeing that people want to play for Kevin O'Connell. He did it with Joshua Dobbs a little bit. Joshua Dobbs and Nick Mullins were having career years with Kevin O'Connell. So that's where you kind of go to revive your career.
yeah, and then I think Daniel must have seen our rundown because he's like, "I rather see Minnesota and not Green Bay." He also wanted to know where the channel is for the Bear game there, and James Wheelock answered the question there. It's Amazon Prime. But just getting to the Rams storylines here, and it's pretty easy. There's not a lot for us to kind of discuss in terms of We all know, the Rams are currently the 3 seed after the Buccaneers lost to the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. So they got to jump up. They were the 4
Yeah.
seed because of the Bucks, but now that the Falcons are the 4 seed, they jumped up to be the 3rd seed. So, what should who should the Rams want to play in the first round, Gilbert? Like, do they want to be the 3rd seed? Do they want to be the 4th seed? Should it even matter? Do you think McVay and the Rams even care who they face? But if as we just saw, Daniel said he would rather see the Vikings than the Packers. That's a huge game this weekend too. That's another one that Rams fans need to watch, is that Vikings and Packers game, because if the Packers win, they have a chance to move up past the Vikings to where you don't have to face the Packers. So there's a lot going on this weekend, Gilbert.
Yeah, this is a tough one because uh, I think the Lions and the Vikings are better than the Packers, and I think the Packers are getting a little too much love from me right now. Then, like especially with this game against the Vikings. The Vikings are on an 8-game winning streak. They're 13-2, the second tied for the second best record in the NFL. They're at home, and
Mm-hmm.
people still think like the Packers are going to be the better team. They beat the Packers in Green Bay in Week 4. I get it. Jordan Love was coming off an injury from the Brazil game. They still beat them down in Green Bay. I also understand that the Vikings playoff the resume doesn't look as pretty because their big wins this year have kind of come against some so-so teams now, which is kind of unfair to do. That string where they beat the 49ers, Texans,
Yep.
and Packers in 3 consecutive weeks, not so pretty because the 49ers are not good anymore. The Texans are not very good. They're a playoff team. And the Packer excuse is Jordan Love was coming off an injury. So I don't buy that. I thought, they played pretty well against the Lions. They had a tough turnaround against the Rams there. But to me, what I was trying to say, I think those two teams are better than the Packers. But the thing here that maybe I got to pay attention a little more, what if Matt LaFleur has something there against Sean McVay? What if he knows Sean McVay too well? And I don't know their history, but I'm sure the Packers are probably leading the series here, at least the last couple of years.
Yeah, they haven't been able to beat the Packers. I think they faced each other 5 times in a row, but as we said, they were missing a bunch of players in week 5 or whatever it is that they
That too,
faced
yeah,
each other.
good point, yeah.
Yeah, and then last season it was Brett Rippin
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
started a
That was
game. I
rock bottom
mean,
game, yeah.
so it's kind of hard to kind of judge it. I think the Packers are a much better, like, they just don't match up well. They match up way too well against the Rams personally. But like, you're right. We don't know because we haven't seen them at full strength. So that would and they, and so there's a lot of ifs with these two, and they know each other really well. Same thing with Kevin O'Connell. So I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a really tough question. I'm gonna go off of my hunch here that want to play in the first round. I say the Packers. Maybe Sean McVay knows about that rivalry there, and it's kind of like a little Kyle Shanahan rivalry. You know what? All right, LaFleur, you've got me. You got me the last few times. Come to SoFi. We're healthy now. We'll beat
Yeah.
the team here, and we'll find out if the Packers do beat the Vikings and they do it in an impressive fashion. Then okay, I was wrong here. But so far, the Packers have lost twice to the Detroit Lions. I don't even know how. There was a couple of close games. The second one was pretty close. And then they lost to the Eagles and they lost to the Vikings here. So they're on 4 against the big boys here. So the Rams beat the Vikings. So maybe the Rams are a better team than the Packer team here. So I say for who they should want to play is them. But let's be real, it's probably the Commanders. But I just don't know if the Commanders will get up to the 6th seed here. So they're probably stuck at 7. But yeah, if the Packers lose to the Vikings, like I'm thinking they will, then maybe the Commanders come up and steal that number 6 spot there. They
I
play the
mean,
Falcons.
there's still the opportunity that could be the Lions too. I think if you're the Rams, right, Ram fans right now, I've seen it. They all want the Lions in the first round. Now, would that happen? We'll see what happens with, everything will get determined the next 2 weeks, especially if the Vikings beat the Packers, as a lot of people, it's weird too because I said, like everybody would expect, but you just laid it out. Now people are saying, well, the Vikings record isn't as impressive as we thought because of all those teams that they beat aren't as good, as we all know now. So there's also that. And then you look at the teams they face, like I saw somebody make the argument that the reason that the Packers are better than the Vikings was because look how they looked against Seattle, and then look how the Vikings looked against them. Like they barely
Yeah.
beat them. So there's also that.
I'll
So
say I'll say this, I hate when people kind of gauge it off of that. Like it's not college
yeah.
football, it's not style points. It's every week is different. But I'll say this: they don't have Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson made a huge difference in that
Oh
game. And
yeah.
that kind of reminded me, yeah, that team is better because Green Bay does not have a Justin Jefferson with the receiving corps. It's good, but it ain't Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. So
Yeah.
that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, and they have Aaron Jones too. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, and like I said, that the other thing, as we mentioned, part of the reason, and I'm not trying to make excuses for the Rams, but they got the Vikings on a short week. They had to fly from Minnesota here, and it wasn't the same thing with the Packers. And then when you look at the Packers, they have a young defense that's been playing really well lately. But you just mentioned it. They have a lot of B and C receivers. They have Josh Jacobs, who can be a beast, and they have a really good running back, but I mean a good offensive line. But yeah, I mean both of those matchups are going to be they like we talked about on Compas. I feel like the NFC is going to have a way better playoff matchups than the AFC because they're a
Yeah.
lot of what you saw
Oh
yesterday
yeah.
is a lot what we're going to see in the AFC on Wild Card Weekend. So get prepared
Yeah.
to be in for snoozers in the first round in the
I feel
AFC.
like they should just start the AFC divisional playoffs with 3 teams already in the second round.
Yeah.
Ravens, Bills, and the Chiefs, and I don't care about the other teams. But yeah, I also like I'll even ask you this. Like I feel like Sam Darnold has been playing better than Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Like I like Jordan Love, but like he's kind of been that great this year. So like, I've gotten to the point where like I think if Sam Darnold even has some struggles, he's not gonna have a total meltdown. He's not gonna be a pumpkin or a Cinderella story that ends at midnight. Like I just don't get that sense. But can he be as great as he was, in Seattle or the week before that? You need that Sam Darnold in the playoffs. But like even if he's kind of so, you have the benefit of good coaching, good defense, good skill players, good running game. That I'm not too worried about him kind of taking a couple steps back there because Jordan Love is kind of like been the lesser version of Sam Darnold, but like where has Jordan Love really been when it comes to elite football? I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, and I think to answer your question, I have no doubts in terms of what I've seen from Sam Darnold. I mean, he's carried that team for a little bit, and you mentioned it. Yeah, it helps to have Justin Jefferson, but I've seen him get hurt and come back, and then and then be in the pocket and move around. And one of the things that people sleep on with Sam Darnold is he's really good in the pocket, Gilbert. Like, and then this is my biggest thing too, with a lot of football fans and a lot of people who follow football on a daily basis is that they cannot let go of what they've seen of a player in the past, and it's like he's gonna revert back to being Sam Darnold, and I'm like, he's not in the same situation. He's not with the Jets. He's not with the Panthers. He's got a way better coaching staff than he's had, and so it's always my thing with when I take each season differently because we might not see that version of that player again, and that player might get better. But for people to be like, well, eventually Sam Darnold is going to turn back into a pumpkin and he's going to lose them games. I just, not with the weapons that they have. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, and I know the next question is who they should avoid. Honestly, the way we've been breaking down Packers, Vikings, those are probably the 2 teams you probably
Yeah.
want to avoid. But I'll say this: I think Detroit, there's probably not a chance to play in the first round because they have too
Yeah.
many wins. And then say they do kind of go, they're going to beat the 49ers, I feel like. But if
Yeah.
they say even if they lose 2, they'll probably still be the 5th seed, I feel like. And then the Rams are number 3, so they might even play them in the first round. But if we're talking about second round, if Detroit finds a way to get to the second round, that probably tells me they're healthy enough and they're still going to be a problem. But I just don't see that match. I think definitely like maybe it could be Minnesota, but even Minnesota has a lot of wins. So if they don't, it could definitely. I'm thinking Packers and the Commanders are the higher chance here. But it's just that we forget because they're still in a division battle. Both of them are 13-2, and they
Yeah.
could go from first to fifth, and that's kind
Fifth.
of wild to me to think.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we're discussing it. But I think these 2 teams are just have so many wins, they'll probably be first or fifth.
Yeah, the fifth seed could be 14-3, Gilbert.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, and they're gonna go up against the NFC South. I mean,
I hope they beat down that team.
yeah,
I know it's a road game, but that's at least the one benefit you get from being a fifth seed.
yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I mean, you don't like I said, for me, it's been you don't want to face the Packers in in the first round, but we'll see what happens. It's just
I'll go Minnesota, but the
okay.
Packers I understand though.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, and like you said, there's still a chance it could be the Commanders, and there's still a chance it could be the Lions. So we'll know everything in a couple weeks, but it's just something good to kind of talk over, and kind of go over. All right, Gilbert, what's the key to a Rams win, and what's a matchup you're looking at in this game?
Yeah, after all the injuries you mentioned and the tackles, and I'm like, okay, everything I thought about this game is kind of out the window. But uh, you know what? I do want to see. How about the offense? I know the offense has been carried on the
Yes.
road, and like I mentioned, it's been kind of been ugly wins, but the defense has carried them in New Orleans, New Jersey, Santa Clara, New England. So they kind of been holding it down. And I get the Rams did their job against Buffalo, a big time victory. This is why we're talking about this team pretty much being on the verge of winning the division title because of that big victory there. But it shows that you could, dominate at home at SoFi, a team that has something to play for. So, give your defense a little breather here. And also just, if you win like 30-10 and you cruise, we saw what happened yesterday, 31-2. That was ugly. If you get a victory like that, man, and you handle business where I mentioned if you win, you're pretty much 99% gonna win a division, regardless of what Seattle does there. You could probably sit all your players in week 18, and you want that golden opportunity right there to do that. Sit in week 18, come back for the wild card round for a home game, be well rested, be dangerous, like everybody says that you're going to be dangerous. Like that opportunity is right there. And I think it starts with the offense to make the most of it by saying, all right, we're not playing around right now. We're going to get 30 points here. We're going to probably get 400 yards here. Let's have a good day here and reward our defense for what they did for the last month here or 5 weeks here.
Yeah, and I think that's what everybody's expecting. Everybody is expecting fireworks now from this offense. You want to get Cooper Cup has been missing in action the last couple games. He's been great, running in the run block, and we've seen Kyron Williams have big games the last few weeks. It's time to get the receivers involved. I'm with you. Puka Nakua needs to go out. Cooper Cup, Demarcus. This has got to be a big Demarcus Robinson game. He's kind of ever since he injured his shoulder, he's kind of been MIA as well. They need to get those receivers locked in again. And Matthew Stafford, I mean, what did he throw for 114 yards against the New York Jets? And now you're indoors. You kind of want to see them do what they did against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Cardinals are not they're depleted. Take advantage of it, and make sure that you go out there and you kind of return the favor. You lost 41-10. You kind of want to do the same thing to them,
Yeah.
so that way, they're already looking at their off season, trying to figure out what they're gonna do, whether what's gonna happen with Kyler Murray. You need to make sure that you put a stamp on this game and you say, hey, we're a team that you don't want to face. It's not about what the Rams who they want to avoid or who they want to play. It's about you want to avoid us. And I think this is the game where and you're on I get it's on NFL Network on Saturday night, but you want to put make sure that people know that hey, the Rams and Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and the rest of this team is ready to, go on a playoff run.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. We'll see what happens here, and maybe even Seattle's up 3-0. Even if Seattle, I guess well, it doesn't matter. Regardless, they get to win the division and win that game in Arizona. Sorry, and so far against Arizona. So, like I keep saying, like just keep ignoring all the other scoreboards and the other results, and have your own motivation, and
Yeah.
come out and return the favor 41-10. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, and yeah, you gotta put a stamp on this game and just say, "Hey, we're here to win, and we're ready for the playoffs, and let's go." I wanted to get to a couple comments before we get our game predictions here. Daniel says, if the Rams make the playoffs this year, this is the year I get tickets. Are
Okay.
there any websites or any apps that can help me save on fees? The only one I can tell you from first personal experience, Daniel, is TickPick. That's the one I use. I don't get sponsored here. We don't have a sponsorship. Hopefully, TickPick sponsors us soon. Or, but yeah, there's someone that I use because not only are they cheaper, but also there's no you won't get charged fees. Everything is how you see it, so that's pretty cool about that. And then Jesse Bonilla says
Right.
Rams. I think you said Vamos Rams.
Yeah.
Rams
Maybe
35-14
it was on
over the
purpose.
Cardinals.
It's a little
Yeah, so
creative.
give
Yeah.
us your scores. Let us know where you guys how you guys see this game going. Even if you catch this the replay of this, let us know what the score. What do you guys have as the score for this game? All right, Gilbert. The Rams are 6.5 point favorites, and the over under is 48. It's been going back and forth between 47.5 and 48.
Yeah, I was gonna confidently take Cardinals plus 6.5, and then got reminded about the injuries, the two tackles, maybe no James Conner. I just thought they're divisional rivals, and they'll make the Rams sweat a little bit, but I'll change it here. I get it. I don't think the Cardinals are gonna show any faith, and the more or fight. And the more we talk about Kyler Murray, the more I feel like I don't think he's gonna give us anything.
Yeah,
Like you don't want to get injured, or I don't know. Maybe I really hope he surprises me. And it got to the point too where I wasn't the only one bashing him on the internet. I did a quick Google search. I like to see what people, what's in the news, and a lot of national media was definitely on Kyler Murray, which is rare because people don't really care about Arizona nationally. So maybe he has his best stuff here. So you know what? F it. Okay, fine. I'll take the Cardinals plus 6, just plus 6.5, just because I was the guy that kept talking about them. So I'll take it on the chin. I was wrong here. So give me plus 6.5 Cardinals. That's a divisional game. You know what? I'll go over mostly
yeah,
because I think the Rams are gonna put the points on here. And
yeah,
even if Arizona struggles, they just need to have kind of a decent showing here. But yeah, was the last home game that we saw was the Buffalo game?
yeah.
Yeah, why not? Maybe the Rams pour on here either for a beatdown or maybe a sneaky competitive game where I get my 6.5 points here.
Yeah, I like the Rams here in terms of the points. Give me the Rams and the points here. The fact that it's under 7, I really like. And then as you mentioned, I mean, the over under is 48. I'm surprised this isn't higher because the Rams have at home they've been scoring a bunch of points. They've scored I think over 25 the last 3 home games if I'm not mistaken. And then the Cardinals have been scoring over 30 points the last 3 games. So even though that Cardinals offense seems broken, they've at least scored over 30 points. So yeah, I'm going with the over here. Yeah, I'll even make that one of my best bets on Gilberto's where I'll put those in later on. But yeah,
Well, they
now
played
Gilbert, let's
Carolina and New England, so maybe that's why they scored points.
yeah, Rams versus Cardinals game predictions. What do you got here? I think it's
Uh
pretty obvious.
Yeah, so because I got the over and I got the Cardinals covering, obviously I'm taking the Rams to win the game. And again, you win regardless of what happens with Seattle. 99% chance of winning the NFC West, and probably 100% by the time Monday rolls around because of the Sunday scoreboard. So I think the Rams gonna be motivated. They win on Saturday. I'll say 30-24. It won't be that close. It'll be a backdoor cover from Arizona with a late garbage time touchdown there to get the cover. So 30-24, Rams win and are very, very close to winning the division. But we'll see what happens tonight.
I say for me, it's going to be, and you know what? I need to see it from the Rams. Like, um, I need this to be a blowout because you want to make sure that you get revenge, and like I just said, like I just went on a little thing where I just said you need to show that you 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 want to show the rest of the league, especially since you're going to be on prime time on Saturday night on NFL Network. You need to show the rest of the country that you are a team to be reckoned with. And so I'm gonna go 40. I'll say 42-14, like
Damn.
kind of like the same
Wow.
score you just had against the Cardinals, when they beat you, you need to return the favor, and it
Ooh.
needs to be a huge blowout, like kind of like what we've seen what we saw yesterday with these games. Is it needs to be a blowout where people are just saying, okay, yeah, you need it, you need to watch out for the Rams come the playoffs because they're ready to roll, especially at home.
Yeah, that'd be a big statement and a big beatdown and probably a division title and then a rest on week 18 and then a home game and wild card weekend. So, hey, what a better way to kick off that important situation or important next couple of weeks, but with a beatdown.
Yeah. But yeah, can't wait for this game. I'm kind of glad that it got flexed to Sunday night. Get it out of the way. If you're the Rams, and just watch the rest of the games on Sunday. We saw that on Thursday night. They got 2 Thursday night games, and Ram fans got to enjoy Sunday and with wins. So they've been good on in primetime games lately. The Rams have. So hopefully they add another one to their ledger this season, and they're one step away from the playoffs, and we'll see you guys after the game against the Cardinals. And then we'll know a little bit more. Maybe not. They won't be like you said. They'll be 99%. Closer to the playoffs. So, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So please join us after the game and help everybody had a good Merry Christmas. And yeah, can't wait till see you guys post game show of the Rams and Cardinals. What's the score right now,
Yeah, I'm
Gilbert?
trying to get one final score before we get out of here, but they won't show the score. They're coming out of commercial. Can we hear? Here we go. It's still 3-0, so very early, but also good for a Rams fan. Maybe the Bears still won the longest this stays 3-0, but you don't know. We should stop talking about it because the score is going to be over by the time people watch later today or they're
Yeah,
listening to the audio tomorrow. But that's what happens when you're scoreboard watching this time of year. But again, handle business in Arizona, not Arizona. It's SoFi Stadium against Arizona, and then you'll be pretty much set. But put it this way: if you're not playing a primetime game in Week 18, you did the job and everything was fine. If you're in a
yeah,
Week 18 primetime game, things went really bad. So
yeah.
hopefully, there's no primetime game for the Rams next week, or Week 18, that is. But enjoy
And
Saturday night.
you can sit everybody on week 18.
Yeah, or play Sunday Night Football and then saying, "Damn it," or play Saturday Night Football on prime time and say, "Damn it, what happened?"
Yep.
But hopefully not. But let's get going here. Let's watch this game here, and also a quick promo. If you want to hear more about this Bears Seahawks game and hear more about Week 17, join us. Join us later at 8 p.m. Pacific time for Gilberto's hour. We're gonna break down all the games and also answer a lot of fantasy football questions. If you're like Victor here and you're in the fantasy football championship and you need some advice from a guy like Victor who's been in these title games and is currently in one right now, join us for Gilberto's Hour for a Q&A fantasy football and then some best bets and then also some conversations about the NFL, kind of like we did here right now, a little bit about the entire playoffs. So join us at 8 p.m. Compas on the Beat YouTube or House of Horns YouTube or What's Up Bolts YouTube. So yeah, maybe I'll nudge Victor to do a little earlier if this game's a blowout, but it doesn't want to be a
Yeah.
blowout. It's 3-0 right now, but
Yeah.
most likely 8 p.m. See you guys tonight, hopefully. But time to get going. Thank you for everybody here in the comments for House of Horns. Enjoy Saturday night. Y nos vamos, pues, vámonos.